Hello, everyone. Hello. Everyone hear me okay? Welcome to the Womp text demo. And yeah, I'm excited to show you guys this new feature we've released. I see some of you have started playing with it a little bit, so that's exciting. I've been having a lot of fun with the text for a while now. We haven't released it. We've had it ready. We haven't released it, so I've been having a lot of fun with the text. And I just want to show you guys some of the fun tips and tricks with the text tool. So if you haven't already played with it and haven't found it yet, it's a new addition in the Objects and Primitives tab. It's right below all of the previously known options. And you'll see that the text has something that says alpha on it, and that's because it's still a very experimental feature. Even though we've worked really hard on it, it still has a few issues. You'll find people today will likely help us find those last issues that we need to fix, but we are in the process of perfecting text, not just for the fonts that we offer, but for people to upload fonts. So I'll show a little bit of what that might look like. You'll see that when you first load the text, it says hello Womp, which probably it should say hello Womp user and not hello Womp, but we'll pretend that Womp is talking to itself. And one thing that maybe isn't quite obvious from the beginning is that this is dynamic. So we're able to change all kinds of different things, not just the size of the text. Obviously, we can change the depth of the text, even using the gizmo. But you can also change some really nice stuff, in my opinion, like the spacing between the letters. And I am like super picky about the kerning of the typography. And one thing that's really cool is being able to like really change it and go into negatives. And so being able to pull your letters in deeper or closer to each other or farther away from each other. Obviously, I prefer it when they're a little bit closer to each other than farther away. And this is something that we really wanted to make sure that we offered these kind of tools for people who are trying to really make some professional looking typography pieces, any kind of graphic design or graphics that you really want to get picky about. Instead of having to put each letter down and move them and make sure they look good, you can just go ahead and do that with what we offer here. You can also control the depth with more precision. At the moment, I just use the gizmo because I'm not being too precise about the depth of my text, but you can get really precise down here. And then, of course, we have the spacing of the text that you can change as well. And so hopefully with your feedback, we can incorporate more things if you guys need more features. But we did incorporate the most basic features that text in most other programs offer. And hopefully that proves to be enough for now, but we are obviously looking for feedback with anything else that you guys are looking for. So this here is the spacing between text. If you want to do like a paragraph and want to change the spacing between lines, you can do that as well. Now you'll notice that we gave you guys a few typefaces that we thought were good and interesting, and we're going to be adding to this. Obviously, Google Fonts is a really important resource that we'd like to incorporate. And like I mentioned before, this is still an experimental version. So we've only released maybe like a dozen or so typefaces. But if you want to jump into the experimental world with us, you can always upload your own font. And I'll give you guys some resources for our favorite places to find fonts. But in this case, I've downloaded some fonts. And you'll see that when you download a font, it'll come in a zip folder, most likely, because it will have its italic, its bold, its all of its different types of versions. So you want to make sure to unzip that file. And in this case, I have this typeface called Nui Renegade. And I just really love this type. So I'm uploading a single version of it. And hopefully in the future, we can allow everyone to upload the entire zip or upload a batch of all of the all of the font's different aspects. But in this case, I'm able to upload the version that is like a semi-bold italic that I really love. And so what I think is also great is being able to really adapt and change the, like I mentioned before, the kerning on this to make sure that the kerning changes depending on the font you have, and maybe some fonts needed things to be a little bit closer, a little farther away. So I really enjoy that. Okay, so you'll notice that the Womp text is flat at the moment, and of course, like any product designer or graphic designer or creative, you're going to want it to wrap around something, or you're going to want it to do interesting and crazy things. So something really cool that we play with often with text is being able to do sort of a fake wrap or an intersect wrap around something. And in this case, I'll show you guys my trick, which I'm not sure if I've perfected just yet, but my trick is to intersect the text with something that's either round or curved. And so what I like to do is make sure that my text is really nice and let's say it has a really strong depth. And then I'm going to make sure that I place it in the middle of my of what I want to wrap it around. And I like to use the isometric view when I'm doing this because it can get a little difficult to figure out the camera on the normal perspective. So I like to go into isometric, put it in the middle. And then one thing you guys will notice is that if I try to put this text here and I try to intersect it, intersect isn't available just yet for pure text. But since we've released the ability to union a union, you're able to actually put the text in an area of its own and then union it with your objects, whichever object you want. And now I can actually use the intersection here so that I can actually intersect it. Okay, so now that I've intersected it with the cylinder, I can copy the cylinder, put it in another union, and I can have a cool wrap around my object. Oh, what have I done here? I think I moved it outside of this one. Here we go. So what makes this really powerful as well is that you're able to make really crazy shapes and have the text intersect with that, and then you're able to make sure that your text gets that intersection with that profile of whatever shape you made. And this is super helpful if you want to make letters or if you want to stain something with the text tool. And just remember that you can always put your text in areas as well, so that you can actually goop the text with something else without causing your text itself to have issues with the letters gooping with each other and things like that. So I really like just to have a nice gentle goop here. One thing that also is really interesting is being able to round the letters. So in this case, I actually grabbed the union itself and I placed a small goop on it, and it actually rounded out my letters instead of it gooping into the cylinder, which what I was intending to do originally. But that's because it's gooping into the intersection. So I forgot that actually the cylinder I'm looking at is a separate cylinder. So, but that's really interesting because that allows you to actually make your letters a little bit rounder. Just as a spoiler, we are working also on round text, but this is a nice way to get into round text without having to have without having that functionality just yet. So I am really obsessed, obviously, with being able to goop the text into other shapes and being able to make these sort of like very subtle, almost like what you would see when you have an injection molded text onto a bottle or something that's nice and subtle, where the text is just kind of growing out of a surface. And so, yeah, just playing with the goop slider and playing with your fonts, I think, is something that really will be a lot of fun to play around with. And then finally, obviously, the text tool is really exciting to play around with materials as well. And that's something that I've been having a lot of fun, just being able to make things look like soap or silicone. is really exciting to me, and especially being able to make products that have nice typography on them so that you can kind of finalize something looking like a manufactured product or like a bar of soap without having to make those letters yourself. And so this has been I'm particularly keen on the subsurface scattering kind of silicone looking thing. And I think this is something that I'm going to continue to really explore and play with. Now, one thing too is this is a positive intersection or a positive interaction that I'm making with the cylinder, which might seem a little bit simpler, but if we want to take it to the next level and I want to cut out the text from the cylinder in that rounded sort of way, I can then I want to cut the thickness of this text, make sure that it has the same thickness, and now I can kind of emboss, or I can is it emboss? I think emboss is the positive one. If anybody knows, let me know. Is it emboss, or I don't remember what the other term is. But yeah, now with our new union plus union, I can take all that crazy intersections and interactions and negatives and stuff like that, and I can now use that to just cut it out from here, and it has that beautiful depth, the exact depth of that edge, and I'm able to create something like this. So I really like that. I'm kind of thinking maybe, I don't know, I'm going to play around and see what happens with the goop. Yeah, I love that. I don't know. Why am I thinking that I want to make like a Womp branded like soap line or something that says Hello Womp on it? I don't know. Maybe it says Hello Womp. Maybe it says like, I don't know, Womp Club or something. But yeah, I want to make soap. That's what I want to do. I want to make Womp soap. Now, one also thing that I think is really cool about the text tool is being able to goop the text tool with stuff. And I think that's something that we, even as a team, haven't played around with just yet so much. And I'm just curious to see what happens when, everyone else gets their hands on being able to goop things around. But I think gooped text is something we just haven't really seen because it doesn't really exist anywhere else. And so I think that the aesthetics and the playing around of just gooping text or having text emerge from something in a goopy way will be really interesting. Again, what's really good about the union plus union is that when I'm gooping this text, I'm not gooping the letters with each other. I'm gooping all of it with something else. And so I think, oh, and maybe it could be interesting to goop the letters together as well. I haven't played with that enough, but I think these are things that will be really interesting to see what everyone else does and see how we can take best advantage of what Womp does uniquely. So yeah, even being able to give this font a little bit of a fat bottom to it, inflate the bottom of it and give that weight to the bottom is something that is so easy by just playing around with that goop slider. And I think that gives it just a whole nother dimension that would have been really tedious and annoying to try to create otherwise. So I am really excited to see any experiments that y'all make with Womp and with this new text tool, and what suggestions you guys have for what comes next. I think I read something about a snap tool maybe. Oh yeah, you're right, Nate Maldonado, you said deboss or indent. Thank you. That is the right terminology. I think aligning is something that we are very keen on releasing next, and being able to snap align and do all kinds of aligning tools. So stay tuned, because we're definitely working on a lot of that stuff. But for now, hopefully our snap tool can help a little bit to find that center on stuff, and also, just being able to sort of eyeball it. One other thing with the text tool that I think will be really interesting to see what folks do with is being able to cut, or being able to play around with the type being intersected or cut with each other. I was playing this morning with the idea that what happens if I cut a light version of a font out of a thicker version of the font. It's still an experiment, but I've been playing around with this a lot, and it kind of works to make the type hollow. And I was just excited to. I was playing with the kerning, and I was playing with the weight and the size of the font, and it worked. So I'm going to keep playing with it. I won't bore you guys with my experiments live, but I think all of these interactions that are made so easy on Womp, with being able to cut things around and goop things around and play around with the booleans, will be fun with text. And yeah, last but not least, I want to show everyone all the resources that would be really helpful for any designer who's looking to get into typography, who wants to look at the latest and greatest. Obviously, Google Fonts is the most basic kind of tool set, and they have incredible and beautiful fonts and super inspiring stuff on Google Fonts. Just because it's like sort of the basic library doesn't mean that it doesn't have incredible stuff. And it has, I don't even know how many fonts it has. I think yeah, the amount of fonts they have here is like wild. And just a really nice in-depth like breakdown of fonts and stuff like that. So for anyone who's like a big fan of typography, this is a great resource. Another one that our team really loves is FontShare. This is like the latest and coolest fonts in graphic design, and I'm always just inspired to scroll through and look at some of these fonts, especially if you're stuck and you are kind of bored of the typical fonts. Looking at some of these is just really exciting. There's also freefaces.gal, and we'll share all these links with you guys so you guys can take a look and play around. I mean, even to create your own fonts and your own font like typefaces, this is really exciting. But people have made the most creative and incredible work. And yeah, I really love Freefaces too. Also very inspiring, and you get to choose if you want to do cursive or display or monospace. Monkey type, also very inspiring and just visual and fun. And I think this is also just really the latest and greatest of graphic design, the hottest types in graphic design right now. Type department, also super inspiring if you guys are into everything that goes into typography, kerning and spacing. And this is a great place also to get very inspired. This is really big right now, these kind of squiggly fonts with big goopy ends to them, and this makes me think about mixing type and fonts that are made by hand with fonts that are defaults. But yeah, I think this is kind of wild that we're seeing these kind of styles where you mix something that looks more like gooped and freehand with something that's more traditional. So yeah, definitely go to typedepartment.com because this is also very, very inspiring. Pangram, very good site as well. Very contemporary, what graphic designers use today to look at the latest fonts. And finally, Beautiful Web Type, which also is super inspiring and exciting. And yeah, this is also what makes me think about cutting type out, not just the positive type, but what happens if you cut the type out, or if you're doing the negative type, and also all kinds of glyphs and emojis and everything else that comes with typography that isn't just the letters. So yeah, these are some of our advice for our users. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. You guys know you can always contact us too through Talk or on our Discord channel or on our Womp Scored channel and ask any questions. We're working hard to fix some bugs. We know everyone reported this morning with fonts disappearing, but this is just the beginning for typography. It's our first release. We have a lot of fun and new stuff coming out in the next few weeks. I hope you guys will be very excited. And yeah, stay tuned. Lots of updates happening with WOMP. I hope you guys feel that we're pushing hard to get all these new features out. And yeah, we're always so grateful for our community. And thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys on Discord.